Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I'm going to ask Pam to roll call.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Here.
Commissioner Uri?
Here.
Commissioner Robeson? Here. Commissioner Wellens?
Here.
Commissioner Klein?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Wellens, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance, please? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pam, do we have any comments from the audience?
No public comments.
Okay, next is committee assignments. As you recall, at the last meeting, I told you that I would be reviewing some of these committee assignments. There's no criteria, rhyme or reason why, but except the fact that I'm trying to spread the wealth amongst the five of us in the best way possible. You know that we have standard committees and we have some other committees. Some committees meet regularly and some committees meet every 3 months. And I am trying to do the very best I can. One thing is I'm going to hold you to the fire on one thing. If you call a committee meeting, okay, I want to make sure that we get those agendas to us within 5 days before the meeting, so we get a chance to review them. And so let me start with the building committee. I'm taking some load off my back and some load off of some of the other folks. If you don't want to do the committee, you feel that you would rather serve someplace else, I'm open to all of that, but right now I have to do this. So on the building committee, Commissioner Uri and I will stay there, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Klein to chair the committee. The executive committee, of course, is the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary treasurer. The finance committee, every board member serves on the finance committee. I need to add Commissioner Klein to the finance committee. On the audit committee, Commissioner Uri remains the chair, Rocky, that's me, and Commissioner Wellens. On the governance committee, I'm asking Commissioner Wellens to come on board, because sometimes we may not be able to bring, we need 2 people to have a committee meeting, so I'm just trying to have at least 3 people.
Happy to do it.
Just in case. So I'm feeling the space is there as we go along. And then you also have Commissioner Robinson there, and so the 3 of us, 2 of us should be able to comply with that if we need to. In the compliance committee, congratulations, Commissioner Robinson, you remain the chairperson, and everybody serves on the compliance committee. So I have to add Commissioner Klein to the compliance committee because everybody serves on it. Joint conference committee, I was told by council that I have to share this year. Am I correct? The joint conference?
To the best of my recollection, it rotates.
It rotates, and next year the doctors?
The position chairs.
Right, okay. I see Dr. Joe was here somewhere, so he'll remind me. You remember that, right? Oh, okay. So there's supposed to be 3 of us, so I'm going to appoint Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Wellens to the joint conference committee.
Control your enthusiasm.
Yeah. Okay, legal and governmental relations, and that everybody serves on that. I just need to also add Commissioner Klein to that committee. And Commissioner Robinson will remain the chairperson. Pension and investment, Commissioner Uri and I will be there, but we're going to ask Commissioner Wellens to chair it, to give us a break. Okay?
You want me to chair it?
Yeah. You have a problem?
I just got to confirm I can chair it.
Okay.
Because of my I have a, you know, my potential of a conflict of interest. So let me confirm from my compliance at my firm that they'll allow me to chair it, and I might, just as long as I'm not making any decisions.
Are you allowed to serve on the committee?
I believe I'm allowed to serve on the committee. I'm not sure if I can chair it. I can check, because
Okay,
I can maybe help you out with that.
So he
I know I wasn't able to, so.
I don't believe I'll be able to chair it.
But-
I believe I can serve on the committee, but I don't believe I can chair it.
That's-
But I'll get a
That was the
confirmation
same
of
thing that
that.
happened with me, so
But-
we were in similar.
But you have, so somehow in this list, we still had you.
No, but it was.
Could be on it.
Before.
That was before.
Yeah, so-
All right, you can serve on the committee?
And I was able to chair it, but.
I know I can serve on the committee. I just can't, I want
All
to
right,
confirm.
look,
If I can do it, I will happily respond back to you the next meeting, but
Okay.
I need to verify whether I can or can't.
If not, if either one of you can, I'll be glad to share it,
Mhm.
and it doesn't matter to me.
That's fine.
And then, as long as, you know, I got the two finance guys here, you know, so I have nowhere to go.
Correct.
Okay, so,
I just have a question. We have a investment and pension committee December 11th. How do you want to handle that? Are you going to be able to let us know, or should we just go with the old chair?
if the two of us, is this,
We definitely need to have a meeting.
Yeah, we have to have a meeting, but it's December 11th is the next committee meeting.
Who's the current chair now?
Commissioner Uri.
so you want to, can you remain the chair or not?
You're the one with the magic wand.
No, hold on a second, you
I'm
share.
happy to do it.
Okay.
All I was saying is he is at a firm, I had a similar issue at my prior firm.
Right.
I was able to serve, but I wasn't able to chair.
Okay.
So that was, I don't know that your compliance department is different. May very well be, but that was an issue that I had as well, so.
Right, so why don't we leave, we can leave the chair as it is until at least I can get a confirmation by the next board meeting in
Yes.
December. And I can serve on the committee, I know for sure. It's just a
Okay.
question of whether I can chair it. I'm happy to do it if they'll give me the approval.
That's fine, that's fine. No matter what we do, we still gotta come here and work.
Yep.
Human Resources, you, Commissioner Uri, you're the chairman, and,
You don't want to reassign that one? I'm joking.
no, it
That's
wasn't,
fine.
you know, I just.
We're on a roll.
I'm just trying to give everybody some kind of showmanship and leadership. I'm trying to be an equal opportunity punisher. Because I'm taking all the, you know, anyway, so Human Resources,
Why don't you give that one to Mr. Commissioner Wellens then? That'll work out very good.
I'm happy, whatever you
I
want.
can't, I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
hold on a second.
That's a first. I was suggesting to
But
Chairman
see,
Rodriguez that he reassign the chairmanship of HR to Commissioner Wellens, who's very eager to receive a chair.
I'm not so sure I'm eager to do anything.
You're a lot more eager than Mr.
Well, you
Klein.
guys-
But I'm willing to do whatever you need.
Okay.
I'm willing to serve it as you need, whatever needs to be done.
I'm screwing you up, man, I'm sorry.
All right, so you wanna,
It's
you
up
wanna
to you.
do, it doesn't matter. I need one of you to be the chair of the Human Resources and the other one to be the, and we still, you know,
I'll make this easy, Chair. Why don't I do HR and let Commissioner Uri stay as the chair of the pension, because he doesn't have a conflict there.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna have a conflict
Okay.
because of my firm.
All right.
And so it might just solve the problem and we can move on.
all is fair in love and war, okay? So
Perfect.
you
So
do
you-
pensions, and by the way, you are on both, you and I are on both committees, so.
No worries, that's great, okay.
Okay. Commissioner Klein, I don't want you to think that I'm just picking on you because you get mentioned so many times, but the reality is that you have Broward North, and this is where the Quality and Oversight, which is a very important committee, and I was chairing it for a while. I know Ms. Capasso chair for a while, so I like to nominate you as chair of the Quality Assessment Oversight. It meets like every 3 months.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman.
And they meet early in the morning, so it's the kind of meeting I like. 8 o'clock, you're done by 10. I have Commissioner Wellens and myself on that committee, so at least if one of us is out, you still have 2 people, okay?
Okay, thank you.
I think that that's a very important committee because it deals with quality and all that other stuff, and it's an area that I think that we all need to get acquainted with, familiar with. Risk management, I got risk management claims review committee. I think there's only one person, Commissioner Robinson, you're there, so I'm going to leave you there.
So I'm just going to meet with myself?
No,
hopeful
this
it'll
is
be brief.
a meeting that it's a staff that gets together every,
I got it.
every time the Haley's comes around or something like that. All right. Broward Health Foundation, well, you're the guy on the foundation. If anybody else wants to join the foundation, let me know. Children's Diagnostic Center, I had, Commissioner Wellens, this is very close to Broward Health.
Okay.
And I think that you would enjoy. They meet monthly to the best you can, and then we have I'm on Imperial Point. Christopher Uri is in Coral Springs. Commissioner Klein is in Broward Health North, and Commissioner Wellens is in the Medical Center, Broward Health. And I believe that we need to have somebody in the primary care and senior services, and I don't know how often they meet or anything like that, but I'd like you to keep an eye on this. That's very close to Broward Health.
Okay.
And I don't feel bad because my name isn't just about every other committee here, but it's getting to the point that I'm becoming...
April from now was a lot better than now. No, fine, I'm happy to do it. Whatever you, just tell me what you need, I'll do it.
When we get our 2 board members, if they drop from the sky one day, then we'll be able to review this stuff. And so, can I entertain a motion to ratify these appointments?
Good luck with that one.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Uri is making the motion. So, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, reluctantly accept.
Did we get a full list of...
Yeah, you're gonna get it.
Yeah, that'll be-
This was all right, so this is when this committee, they meet and everything else. So, thank you very much. Okay, committee.
We didn't get a vote on it. Just
Huh?
all
No,
all in
go
favor.
ahead.
Well, we just had a motion in a second, so just.
It's okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner Rodriguez, one clarification. Commissioner Uri is still on HR, but Commissioner Wellens is chair, correct? Okay,
Yeah, he's still there.
okay, thank you.
They just kind of swap. Okay? Now, committee reports. The CEO search committee, we have 6 candidates. We met on November 21st. I want to thank Commissioner Wellens, and previous to that, we had Ms. Capasso at the time when she was a commissioner, and took a very active part in this. We have 6 candidates, and because Commissioner Wellens really was the mastermind of what we came up with. I'd like for you to read this, okay? And so everybody knows what we're doing. We told you folks that our goal was to have between 6 and 7 candidates by year's end. We were hoping to have a contract by year's end, but that didn't happen. But we came close to home plate on time. So would you honor us by reading what the committee came with?
Yeah, so we met, discussed the various options for the process to interview potential candidates, the finalists. So the motion as was recommended out of committee for the full board to lay out the process for the CEO search committee for interviews of the president and CEO candidates. The process is for the board to interview each candidate for 1 hour as follows: a 10-minute candidate opening, 8 minutes of questions and answers from each commissioner for a total of 40 minutes, and a 10-minute candidate closing. Each candidate will then go to a designated Broward Health hospital to meet with Broward Health leadership teams and the chiefs of staff for a period up to an hour. The candidate interviews will take place on consecutive days, 3 each day. 1 week following the interviews or shortly thereafter, the board will meet to discuss the candidates, at which time the leadership teams and the chiefs of staff will provide input in a public setting. The board will then determine the final candidate or candidates to be brought back for additional interviews.
Okay, thank you. Well, what we need to do is, I'm asking you folks to, I know that Peter was here earlier, but we tried to get something together for the beginning of December, but there was just no way because all these candidates are from out of town and we couldn't get all the, give them enough time to notice the fact that they have to fly out of wherever they're living. So what I'd like for you to do now is to please help us come up with 2 days during the month of January that we can interview these folks and give them plenty of time to come here so we can see what they look like, who they are, how well they are, how well prepared they are, and see what we got. Because until we see them, we can't, we don't know. So if you please look at your calendars and give us 2 days during the month of January. It would be good to do a consecutive. Is Peter around there? Will you step to the podium, please? Sir, I believe that we said 2 consecutive days, right? I just want to make sure that I'm right.
That is correct, Commissioner Rodriguez.
And we like to find either 2 mornings or 2 afternoons or whatever pleases the board. But we need to get this done. So during the month of January, that would give you plenty of time to let these folks know. I know that you've been in touch with them. And I feel that with the holiday coming up, it's going to be very cumbersome to try to get anybody, back and forth, and us, our schedules too, and you guys. So what it pleases the board, we need 2 days. I don't care what days. I'm here.
So let me just add to what we talked about was possibly a 3 or 4 hour session in the morning where we would bring the candidates in one by one. And as we finish with the candidate, we would then take that candidate, Broward Health would take that candidate to either Broward General Medical Center or Broward Health North, depending on the day. We wanted to give an opportunity to each of those hospitals where we have a CEO in place, a permanent CEO in place, to host one of the days. And so we would have about a 3-hour session at the hospital where the medical staff and the leadership team can then interview the candidates, talk to them, give them a tour of the hospital. So what we're envisioning is 2 full days, but the commissioners being a half a day each, and the medical and leadership teams a half a day. So, preferably we would want to do this, when it would be convenient to bring 3 candidates in the first night and then bring the other 3 candidates in the next evening so that they would be prepared for the next day. So what we're looking for is really 2 days back to back where we know we could accomplish this, so we could do 3 and 3, because I think the committee's belief was doing more than 3 interviews in a day, back to back, I think you might lose a little bit of focus, or I think you want to be sharp, and you want the candidates to have the best opportunity to tell their story, and for us to ask the questions that we need. So, if we could find a Monday, Tuesday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that in January, since we could not do it in December, that would be perfect. Now, the only difficulty would be making sure that Broward Medical Center, General Medical Center, and Broward Health North could host on one of those days. So we're going to leave that to the medical team and the leadership team to figure those dates out and then coordinate that schedule.
Correct. I think the challenge is really getting the board's 2-day consecutive dates. I think that's a greater challenge. If we can do that, I think we will be able to get the candidates.
Well, we should do that, because this is the most important thing. We just finished the report to the federal government, and I think that the most important thing that we owe to this community is to get these interviews and see what happens. And I think that is the #1 thing that we need to be focused on right now. Let's see what these people, who they are, how smart they are. We have a good, qualified group of people.
Absolutely. I have been in contact with the candidates, and they are aware, one, that we're having this meeting, and hopefully at some point soon, if not today, I'll be able to provide them with dates and begin to make those arrangements to bring them down.
I'm happy to get the party started. I'm available the 17th, 18th, 19th, 22nd, 23rd. Those are consecutive days I could do it. I'm not going to be in Florida until around the 12th of January.
You mind repeating that?
Sure. I'm available the 17th, 18th, and 19th of January, the 22nd and the 23rd of January. On the 24th, I'll be heading out west. I've got to be out west after that. So that's 5 days. I know I'm here. I'll make sure that I'm here, and I'll block my schedule if those work.
Okay, I'll make it easy for you. Any of those days will work for me. I want to hear everybody else say that.
No. 22nd, 23rd works for me just fine of those days, but a lot of others do too.
Okay, so I need Commissioner Klein and Commissioner Uri to do everything in their power so the 22nd and the 23rd work for them, because I don't want to keep dealing with stuff every day.
I can do the 22nd, 23rd. I just have to change my travel around, but I can do the 22nd, 23rd.
I'll buy you a box of cookies.
All right, thank you.
So you got 4.
Really?
It's all on you.
No, but no. Come on, I want 5. This is not a dictatorship. We work as a collegial body. We need 5 guys. 5 happy people.
22nd and 23rd.
22nd, 23rd. I think that Peter,
Sign it in stone.
you just won the lottery.
I got it. Thank you.
You see, Peter, I'm already assuming my role at HR, getting stuff done.
I love it.
God help me.
So what are you trying to say there?
You and I clearly have the most difficult travel schedules of everybody, so the fact that we're both going to be here is perfect.
Right. So while we're at it, do you think we can talk about the second date, which is the date that we'll do the
now you're getting
deliberation?
greedy, Peter.
What was right.
Because
I
this
do
went
that.
so well, I think I'm gonna,
So you're talking about
You're
the,
gonna hurt cats again.
well, you're talking about the mornings of those days, and then they go to the hospitals.
Correct.
And now you're talking about the second day for bringing them back?
correct.
Right, round two.
Not so much round two, because in order to get the feedback.
Oh, you mean the follow-up from
Correct.
the interviews to
Correct, the
determine
follow-up to
who is
determine.
About the 29th and 30th?
Hang on. No, we only need 1 day for that.
The 29th?
Hang on a second, let me look.
I'm trying to take your role.
No, that might be, that's gonna be, the follow-up may be more difficult. That's what I'm checking right now.
Huh?
We gotta have 4.
Well, you know, I mean, I've got other days. It's not a problem. It's just that second week's a problem.
Hang on a second, so, I'm looking when I come back, I'll tell you 1 second. What's the date you were talking about?
I said the 29th because you were saying a week, right, Peter? A
Yes.
week from, so the week from the 22nd is the 29th.
When is the board meeting on?
That would be hard for me. I couldn't get here till the 30th or 31st.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is.
The 30th works.
Could we do it on the 30th?
Perfect. I'm good for the 30th.
Okay.
Is the 30th the board meeting, right, correct?
Yeah, it's a regular.
General counsel, you remember?
I have a board meeting on the 31st, I thought.
31st. So you
New
could.
Year's Eve, that needs to be moved.
No, it's January 31st.
Where you been?
I don't know. I don't even know what
That's
day
okay, I
it is.
understand. All right, so,
Are we doing it on the 31st? Is that the consensus, or was it the 30th, just for clarity?
I'm okay on the 31st of January.
31st would be better for me. I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Is that the board meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, how much time you need? And is this for?
Do the morning. Let's do that in the
Just
morning.
have it as an agenda item at the board meeting.
No,
Well, you don't
probably
want
take a couple of hours.
Yeah, that may take.
Correct, correct.
How many folks? 3 or 4 that we're gonna interview? For that
You
one?
wouldn't be.
No, this is interview.
This is really more so of a deliberation and getting input, and then the board members would then decide how you would like to proceed with the candidates.
Well, and that gives it the
you
staff
interview.
and everyone time to give us their input. That gives a week
Correct.
from when they met with the candidates.
Well, we can, and I know we spoke about having the staff come here. If you want to do it differently and have them provide me with information, then I can bring it back to the board. Maybe that's also a suggestion.
Because I thought the way the way the committee had decided was to come back about approximately a week later, have the leadership team
Yeah.
decide
Yeah.
who's going to make some
Right.
presentations, whether it's going to be a couple of them, give us input, the board will give its input, and see if we can narrow the field down. If there's a candidate or candidates out of that group that are overwhelmingly positive and we wanted to move forward, either with a candidate or candidates for additional interviews, at that point we would have enough information to make that decision. And doing it on the 31st, probably, I'm saying a couple of hours. I would say block 2 hours.
Okay.
You know, give the medical team an hour and an hour of delivery. It's 2 hours. I think that's more than enough time, because we would have had an opportunity to meet them. We would have, interviewed them. They would have interviewed them, and if they want to provide input, that's fine. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I remember that's exactly what we went with the fact that the leadership team, you had a leadership team and then the medical team, we're gonna choose somebody to come here and give us their recommendation or their take-in. And by the way, those in the media, we are not going to participate, no commissioner is gonna be with these candidates when they go to the staff. That's a different thing. They're going individually. Is that your plan to take them
That is
individually
correct.
to talk to the staff and the doctors and the medical team?
That is
And we just, we'll probably be going out of here by that time when the last one leaves.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So.
Okay, so just So it's 22 and 23 for the interviews, three apiece. Hopefully the candidates available do that. And then the 31st for the deliberation. And we talked about maybe I would probably suggest 2 to 3 hours, just because even after you receive the input, the board members would have to decide what to do with all of that information.
Okay, I think schedule for 3 hours. If we need 2, if we need 3, that's fine. But I don't want to schedule it for too short of a time and not leaving us enough time. So it's better to schedule a little extra time, see how the deliberations go, see how where everybody is, and we make a decision.
Okay, very good. So Commissioner Wellens, I'll schedule it for 1 p.m. so that it's right behind the board meeting, if that's the will of the board.
You mean in front of the board meeting?
In front of the board.
Sure, that's fine with me.
Got it.
So Commissioner Wellens, would you like to entertain a motion to set the date on stones?
Yeah, I'd like to offer a motion to establish the interview dates for the CEO, President/CEO candidate search. The candidates will be interviewed by the board on January 22nd and 23rd, and then they will have an opportunity to meet with the medical staff and leadership teams after their interviews. And on the 31st of January, we will reconvene from 1 to 4 o'clock to get input from the medical staff and the leadership team, as well as for the board members to discuss the interviews and the candidates in an attempt to narrow the field down to a candidate or candidates, should we have consensus.
That's good. Just for clarity, Commissioner Wellens, when would we want to start the interviews on the 22nd and 23rd? 9 o'clock?
I think 9 o'clock works, because if they're here from 9, I think that's what we talked about, is 9 being an hour with us, half-hour travel time, and again, the hospital, the medical team and the leadership team is going to have to make sure that they're available at those times. But I think that's what we talked about, is 9 to 12 here, and I think we talked about 10:30, 11 o'clock starting at the hospitals and going them back to back for an hour or so, and then they'll do a tour. So 9 to 12, is that? We need 3 hours, 9 to 1, so in case we run a little late.
Got it.
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. You won the lottery, can I tell you? See? Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Robinson.
Yes?
I'm not going to leave you alone yet. Here you are.
Well, the board compliance committee met on Monday, and we went through where things stood with our annual report, talked a little bit about this call coverage arrangement agreement, and we decided to walk those on to discussion items so that the report for the compliance committee will be taken up in items 13 and 14 on the revised agenda. Essentially what we did is we recommended that the call coverage arrangement policy be reviewed by the full board at this meeting, and that the resolution that's required for our annual report be reviewed as well at this time.
So you think it's item 13?
No, we're not going to go, we're going to go in order.
Okay.
13 and 14.
Okay, all right.
Just to say that the report is that we walk them on as items 13 and 14 when we get there.
Well, it's on the agenda, so
It's on the discussion agenda.
Right. They weren't walked on, they're actually put on the agenda.
No, they're not walked on, yeah. And then we have a copy of this stuff.
Right.
So, anyway, all right, so,
We would, do we want to, I know it's not listed, but I'm happy to chair our HR committee meeting today and the recommendations that the HR committee meeting, or the HR committee had for the board in terms of the chief internal auditor interview and selection process, which may now be changed. So I'd walk on that committee report.
When we walk something, isn't it supposed to be an emergency?
Why don't we just do the reports of the commission?
It's walking on the report of the HR committee, which we just had.
Oh, the report that we did this morning?
The one, right, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
But as chair, you can say
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
or we would have a vote.
No, it's just a report of the committee. Right?
Well, I know, but there's recommendations, as you may recall, that we had today for the board, and while we're all here, I think it'd be good that we don't.
So
That's what we discussed, so.
what do we do?
If you choose to walk it on, you could walk on the HR committee report.
Okay, well, let's walk it on the HR committee report. And then it will be accepted by the board, correct?
All right, so you have to make a motion to walk on the HR committee report under committee reports.
Well, let him make the motion, because I can't make a motion.
Right,
I'm
right.
chair. Okay, go ahead.
I'm making a motion to walk on the HR committee meeting report from today.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so
Do we?
I see otherwise it may
Later in the
just wait
discussion,
another.
that would
So-
be then.
Yeah, you could just give an overview of what was discussed.
Just give an overview then. And then I'm gonna put
But
down
there were
the
specific
committee.
recommendations.
I-
All right, I understand. Okay.
I'm putting it on the committee report. I'm listing it for my records.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, just tell me when I'm on.
Did we vote on?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. It's all in favor?
Yep.
All right, go ahead. I just write it down.
Okay. All right, so the HR committee met earlier today. Really, the primary takeaway in terms of recommendations to the committee was how to proceed with respect to the chief internal auditor position, as well as a recommendation to this board for compensation for the current interim chief internal auditor. And the chief internal auditor interview process was recommended that I guess when we had met last year, there was, or not last year, earlier this year, there were 4 candidates plus the interim person who had were advanced, if you will, to interview stage. Of the 4 people who had originally been selected to come in for interviews, 2 of those folks are no longer available. Either they've selected another position or they've withdrawn their interest. And there were 2 other candidates who have continued to express an interest. So the HR committee had suggested that we bring those 4 folks in, the 2 original candidates, the 2 other candidates that had remained interested, and the existing interim chief internal auditor for interviews for the position. The interviews was suggested that we do it either on the January board, the regularly scheduled January board meeting, or the February board meeting. I'm guessing that after today's already changes to that, the January 31st, that it'll be best to consider February for that interview process. So the recommendation is that we bring those 5 folks in on the February regularly scheduled board meeting for interviews for the chief internal auditor permanent role.
In February.
February.
In February.
Correct.
So I don't have.
So that's the recommendation, I guess.
Well, when is the board meeting in February, you know?
Whatever that last Wednesday is, 28th.
So will we do it in the morning before? How many candidates we have?
There were 5 candidates. I think we had discussed 40 or 45 minutes.
It was in the detailed resolution that Mr.
Yeah,
West
Mr.
made, and you
was it?
seconded it. And
February 20th.
Ms. Barrett wrote down.
Do you have the exact, I mean, I don't know that.
Yeah, if we're going to approve it.
I believe it is to recommend to the board, and that would be the February board meeting, to interview 5 candidates for 45 minutes each, and thereafter, within approximately a week of the interviews, subject to board availability and time constraints, to have a meeting to discuss a decision, have a discussion regarding the candidates. Oh, no, I apologize, you amended that, and it would be then, but between then on or before the March meeting.
Correct, yeah. So basically what we tried to do is, because this is a board report, we tried to work around the days that have already been scheduled for regular board meetings. So the idea would be that we have the interviews on the date of the February board meeting, which I'm told is the 28th, and that on or before, should we choose to meet earlier, but on or before the subsequent board meeting, which would be the last Wednesday in March, we would make that decision. And the idea was that ultimately that we'd be able to communicate that to the candidates, since this is a position that's been out and advertised for quite a long time. So we felt it was important that we communicate to the folks that have expressed an interest and have remained interested at that point, which would be almost a year, that we swiftly decide.
I don't have a problem with coming into a meeting if we're going to do this earlier.
Well, we can always decide that, later. We don't need to decide that now. So the idea, though, is that we would be able to communicate at least on or before the subsequent board meeting, which in this case would be March.
Okay, good. So we're going to let Pam try to coordinate whatever.
I don't know that Peter would be coordinating the. Did you write it down, Peter? I'm not sure what.
Well, Pam usually calls everybody and asks if they're available. You're going to coordinate the time.
Absolutely.
You more or less let us know when these folks are going to be available to come in.
I will coordinate the time. I mean, the folks are
but
on.
then usually she go ahead once you know the time, and then she's trying to get us together, So
Are we talking for the second
February board meeting?
We'll start
that day.
Got it.
So it would need to be
Right.
I'd say at least 5 hours prior.
Absolutely. So because there's 5 candidates, that's a reasonable number. So much of the day really will be interviews.
Right. And we'll know what we can do now is at least leave that date open. We can start, we'll start at 9.
Correct.
Once you confirm that it may be 5 that come, there may be 3. The idea is that we're going to establish the date of the interviews, and if for one reason or another somebody's not able to be there that day, then they're
absolutely, and that might adjust the time.
Excluded,
so
right.
At this point, really, I would work backwards from the board meeting time, depending on the total number of candidates that we have. So when you come one time.
All right. So. We have plenty of time to notice this, so you'll come back and say when we need to start, and that's then, I guess, the staff will notice it.
Was it 5 or 3? Refresh
5. It was 5. Right.
Let me ask you something. If we went 10 to 3, theoretically, we talked about 45-minute interviews with the chief auditor, okay? Well, I don't think an hour is that, but if we did 45-minute interviews, we went from 10 to 3. We would then have an hour time left over for discussion purposes before the board meeting.
Yes. I think what we did
technically
today
will be a board meeting.
Correct, but I'm saying, so if we establish that we have from 10 to 3 and then we get another hour before the formal board meeting starts, we may have the time to do the discussion and not have to reconvene.
Right,
unless we couldn't make a decision. It may be that whoever the potential candidate is rises to the top in the interviews and we have consensus, in which case we could do it in the same day. Is
That
that
is-
not possible?
Well, it is, that's all why I left it open to say on or before the subsequent meeting, because we may be able to make a decision, we may not be able to make a decision, but at least we'd have
Right, I just want to make sure when we notice the meeting, that we have the
ample
proper
time
notice
between, I understand.
in there, in the event that we want to, or feel we are in a position to make a decision as a board, we have it noticed and it's there, and if we need to reconvene, we reconvene.
It's a good idea.
Is that a reasonable way to approach it?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're good?
Excellent, yes. And there was one other piece to
Do
the,
we need a motion for that?
I thought someone was going to make that motion, but a lot shorter.
Yeah, well, I'm not one to do it short.
Sorry, I'll move that we advance the 5 candidates as we discussed, and their names. Do you want to repeat their names, Peter? I'm sorry, I don't remember all their names off the top of my head, but
absolutely.
just so we're clear on the motion.
The 5 candidates are Joseph Kuruk, Nigel Crooks, Sam Kulumani, Joseph O'Keefe, and Joshua Aubrey.
All right, so the motion is to advance those 5 candidates to interviews on February 28th, prior to the regularly scheduled board meeting. This will be a special meeting of this board. The interviews will last 45 minutes, and the notice time will accommodate at least an hour prior to the regularly scheduled board meeting for us to discuss the candidates following. Is that
Discuss and possibly recommend
possible?
a candidate or decide on a candidate.
Right.
So you are here a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then the
There's
second,
one other
the second issue out of the...
More stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah?
you were there.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago.
Yeah. Long time ago.
You need some ginkgo biloba or whatever.
No,
The second recommendation out of HR committee is to adjust the compensation for the interim chief internal auditor to the 50 percentile figure, which was
180,397.
correct, and that would be retroactive to the date at which this board
It's
appointed him to that
Right.
interim role,
it was
which I think is
October.
September.
No, it's when he assumed it.
It's when he
Assumed the
assumed the role.
responsibility, October
Whatever.
15,
Right,
2016.
October 15, 2016.
Whatever, right, sorry.
Okay. All right, so I hear a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Westfall. Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Doing well. It's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce our new Vice President of Quality and Safety, Lee Gezzi. We talked a little bit about him before when we had the last board meeting, and I wanted to have him come up and tell you a little bit about himself, so you'll know who he is. And it's better it coming from him than from me.
Well, that's good. Good afternoon, sir.
I'm Lee Gezzi. I'm very happy that I have the opportunity to work for Broward Health. The hospital system serves myself, my family, and my neighbors. I'm a resident of Pompano Beach. I have, by training, I'm a nurse. Also, I'm a licensed healthcare risk manager, certified accreditation professional, and I have a master's in hospital administration. Most recently coming from Cleveland Clinic, where I spent 15 years in the areas of quality, case management, infection control, risk management, and working with the law department for compliance issues. So thank you very much for allowing me to work here, and hopefully I can help make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quarterly update, Mr. Cruz. There he is.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to provide an update of internal audit resource and activity for the year 2017. Internal audit is currently in need of 2 auditors. Our current staff is now 6, and our nominal staffing level is 8. So we're looking for 2 additional auditors to satisfy that requirement. In regard to internal audit activities, and as part of our bailiwick, internal audit has developed a reporting report rating scale for individual audits and findings. This scale consists of weakly controlled, needs improvement, adequate control, and well controlled. So these are the different levels of what we rate our audit department or entity or process. Internal audit has completed 26 audits, of which 14 were deemed as needs improvement and 12 were deemed as adequately controlled. It's important to note that our information that we use to judge these audits were based on 2014, 2015, and part of 2016 audit data that we use to judge these audits. And our general impression of the entire management team, the current management team, and the control environment is that the management has done a remarkable job in improving the processes that we've seen. And we are proud to say that we've seen a tremendous amount of effort into improving the landscape of internal audit control, and that we can credit to the management team there, the new management team, as compared to last couple of years ago. And that's all we have to add in our. Any questions?
Any questions?
I do, I'm confused. The data that you used stopped at mid-2016?
Partial 2016, yes.
So was it mid or was it the beginning? Do you know?
It's about the third quarter, about the first quarter in 2016.
Okay, so you think that if you were to use that same criteria against 2017, you wouldn't have as many needs improvement?
Right, because we have done that now. We have the opportunity to go back and look at we're doing current audits. So when we compare, our basis is compare what we're doing now versus what we found previously. And we're in the process of developing those audits and looking at them and compare the 2 bases together and to compare and contrast the 2, and we've seen a marked improvement. And also the landscape of internal audit, internal controls is totally different from that of what we saw in those previous years. And to be honest with you, we're an independent body. We're independent. We're not biased. We're unbiased. And so we actually seen a marked improvement in not only the audits that we do, but also the landscape for internal control. So
what is the opportunity for doing better than adequate? Because that's the highest that you have.
Well control.
You think?
Yeah, adequate, well controlled is when you think about a pizza, and I'm showing it there, and the pizza, it's cut into different slices, and then we deemed it as nothing, the pizza's finished, so it's well controlled. That's how we look at it. It's within it's within the organization risk appetite. Those that we found, if we found anything within well control.
Okay, I just have a couple questions. Is there a particular or a couple of particular areas where you might want to highlight noticeable improvement, or areas that that we need to really focus on? Is there a particular area that you feel needs a lot of focus, or is there?
Yeah, and we have addressed that in our, whenever we do an audit, we have our recommendation, and we elicit information from management as to the cause of those issues. And yeah, just a total landscape, I can't point out one particular area. We've seen improvement in the finance department, and especially now in accounts payable, where we've seen a marked difference in terms of control issues, control being ratified and put in place. And we've also seen on the operations side where it's just tremendously different from what was saw from those times when we did the audits.
So you're getting the information you need.
Yeah,
some of that's being driven. I imagine some of that's being driven by the technology and the processes that you guys are putting in place.
Right. And not only that, when we do the compare and contrast, we can see, as clear as day, the difference between that. Not only that, but the employees respond to the governance process and the control environment. It's totally different. We have unfettered access. The internal audit has unfettered access to records more quickly and responds back to us, and there's a difference in the process that we've seen.
That's great. That's great. Thank you, and keep up the great work. And let's just keep working at it. I know we're getting there, and it's looking better. So the sun is starting to shine on us a bit. So let's keep working on it. Good job.
I just have a couple of follow-up questions. I'm looking at the report, and as you mentioned, the data was from prior years, and I just wanted to get some clarification as to why there's such a significant delay in when the audit is being performed and when the data is being collected. If it's collected in 14, 15, and part of 16, but the results are reported in 17, what accounts for that delay?
Oh, well, when we do an audit, we have, not only that, one of two things, we never have board members or the audit committee to report that out to, so we would sit on the audit. Now we do have an audit committee. And the other thing is that when we submit, in terms of, I mentioned that we had unfettered access now and access to employee and management and so forth. Before, our audit's recommendation that we recommend and enlisted management response were not timely come in, so we could not close that audit out. We have to have management response in order to close the audit out, and so we were waiting on that hence the delay to report those audits in a timely manner.
Okay, and based on this report, it appears that those hurdles no longer exist, and you're able to get the access you need.
Right.
And this will be a more timely process going forward.
Exactly. And we've seen that where we, from the management team, where we've seen an urgency to get those things audited, to answer audit findings and report on audit findings, and that's from a management perspective, and we've seen those in effect.
And what's the status of the search for the additional auditors that the audit department currently needs?
We're in progress. Hopefully we'll add, by next time I report to you guys, hopefully we'll add those 2 auditors. Yeah. So it's ongoing, and hopefully
Do you feel like you're getting strong candidates?
It's difficult. We have had one lady we're looking at, and she's pretty strong. We have a criteria that we set. We need them to be certified and have like a 4-year degree in accounting and finance. We're getting some of those.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
It's a good news in many respects, but will this be, one of the questions our outside auditors had, and one of the concerns they have was some of the controls. Are they aware of where things are now and the improvements that you see? Has that been conveyed to them, or are they just going to have to wait and discover it when they come back in?
You're referring to the external auditor?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we work in tandem with them in terms of providing with information. So we'll submit to them our audit findings and our audit report prior to their coming in.
Okay.
And so what they do, we meet together, we go over, and we form a close bond together to ensure that the controls are implemented and so forth.
Okay. Good deal. Thank you.
Any other questions for Nate? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Request approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on October 25, 2017. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
Very good discussion.
Any discussion?
All I'm going to say is I think that they're still way too detailed. I mean, we have I don't think we need to go through how each individual person, voted on the candidate, because we say who the candidates are, and we have it all taped if anyone wants to get that tape. It just seems to me that, we had gotten to the point where I think we were doing the action items and the bullet points and the resolutions, and it still seems to me that from the standpoint of minutes, because it takes an awful lot of time to go through these, that we ought to be able to summarize them in a way that's more meaningful for the public and for us. With anyone wanting to go and get the detail, it's easily there. It's just an impression I have. It's an impression I've always had, but I saw it in this particular instance more dominantly. There's some things from a grammatical standpoint I might change, but I'm not going to bother. I'll go ahead and say okay, but I know we had this issue with the compliance committee, and it really was just a transcript. And it was so long that even I couldn't get through all of it. It was hard to follow, and it was just literally the transcript. So I think from a board perspective and from just regular old corporate governance, minutes are supposed to be advising about actions that are taken and deliberations that are made, but not every single item that we discussed in our 4 and 5 hour meetings.
So if I might, we realize that. So today, if you notice, we have a reporter with us tonight, but she's taking down everything verbatim, going to transfer to us. Then I'm going to sit with the assistants, and then we're going to do exactly what you want.
Okay.
The minutes will be, and you're right, we'll have the transcript now. We'll also have tape if anybody wants the full, but we'll get the minutes where I believe they need to be. So we heard you, and we're going to make it better.
Thank
You don't have to talk really fast to tell which
Or don't turn your microphone on.
No, when I noticed it, and I know I have an accent, but when I read the
I think somebody's
minutes,
trying to tell you something else.
when I read the minutes of what were the minutes of compliance, I didn't say those things. Wasn't in my vocabulary. So it just made no sense to me, and that made me start to look at, okay, what is the idea that the public needs to know and that our board members need to know? What actions did we take? I think it's hard to take all that and reduce it down to what's really meaningful. I know, I did it for many, many years, so I have sympathy with that. But I thought we were getting to that process, and I think we slipped back a little bit. So.
I'll make sure that we get it in sync.
If you recall, Commissioner Rojas, a while back, okay, and I think that this was prior to Ms. Capasso joining us. You recall that we had the same conversation here, and we talked about just memorializing the meetings, not to have a transcript, verbatim transcript. So I'm just going to let you...
I'll handle it. I've got it understood.
I think it's fine. I think that it may be hard for the public to follow, hard for me to follow, and I was there. But I think it will be more meaningful to the public if they see what actions we took, what we talked about, what the big discussion items were, and anyone's curious about any single one of them, they can get the transcript or the tape. So just a comment.
Okay. So I believe that Ms. Capasso has taken care of it, and we will move on. But we've been there, done that before. You remember? Okay. All right.
You might as well go ahead and I'm not going to require these to be redone. I think don't we need to vote on them?
Yeah. So let's. I heard a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Dr. Westphal, you're back in the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm back.
Medical staff credentials.
All credential reports from Broward Health Coral Springs, Broward Health Imperial Point, Broward Health Medical Center, and Broward Health North were reviewed by myself as well as the chiefs of staff. And we're requesting approval in their entirety with one exception. One radiologist, Dr. Brett Stoller, is no longer requesting the additional privileges as listed under the BHEP report. System-wide, there were 43 new appointments, 149 reappointments, and 58 resignations. All additional requests were recommended for approval as submitted.
Okay.
If I could just take liberty and move on to agenda item number 12, if you don't mind, to talk about the core privilege project.
Yeah, we need a motion.
Okay.
You need a motion first,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
So moved. I'll move to approve the
As amended.
report as amended by, and presented by Dr. Russell.
So, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So you want to go to number who?
Yeah, item 12 under the agenda, please.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to take this opportunity to invite up two of our chiefs of staff in attendance, Dr. Louis Yogel and Dr. Howard Lukowitz. Dr. Maheshwari is on his way to India, and I just got a text from Dr. Zingaro. He just landed at Tucson, so unfortunately they won't be here. I want to take this opportunity because with the core privileging project, if it weren't for the chiefs of staff, we wouldn't be here presenting this today. This was one of the findings on our Joint Commission survey when I first started at Broward Health, that the Joint Commissioner talked to me about the position and said we have to go to core privileging. And what we did, we had to break this all down in terms of having specialties represented for each of the disciplines. We actually ended up with 51 specialty privilege forms. And I just want to, again, reiterate the vital role that the chiefs of staff played with this whole process, as well as the MECs and the medical staff offices. Contained herein, please find for review and consideration of approval 51 specialty core privilege forms. This type of delineation of privilege form is a preferred method for privileging and is recognized by the Joint Commission, ACA, CMS as best practice. Each specialty form has been fully vetted at each region by a specialty reviewer chosen by the department chief, the respective department chief, regional medical officer, chief executive officer, as well as the Credentials and Qualifications Committee and Medical Council. This project will be rolled out in phases. Phase 1 will be composition and approval of all medical staff specialty forms, the 51 that were noted, by all regions with approval by the Board of Commissioners. Phase 2, implementation of the forms will be grouped by specialty and distributed to the individual practitioners for completion. And Phase 3, upon completion of assigned groupings, the individual practitioner forms will be presented to the board for review and consideration of approval. These are individual practitioner privileges. This cycle will continue until all practitioners by specialty have received, completed, and been approved by the Board of Commissioners. So this has been a major undertaking. It's been about a year and a half in the making, and there's been a lot of to and fro and a lot of reviews and a lot of reconsiderations and changes in some of the forms that were recommended. So I just again want to present this for approval and again express my thanks to the chiefs.
Good job. Good job. Don't you need an approval?
You need a, yes, we
So
need
when we
approval.
vote on the approval?
Yes, yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, moved by
Second.
Commissioner Robertson, second by Commissioner Uri.
Just one point for,
One question. Yes.
I think the words left out in phase 3, I was having a hard time understanding. You said been approved, it just says approved by the board.
It has
So-
to be approved by the board.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's okay.
No,
I
I was being optimistic, Commissioner, that you wouldn't
Well, yeah.
approve it.
If it just need to be worded a little bit differently, but no, I just think if you just put been in there, it's fine
Okay,
where it is.
okay.
It's just a minor
Okay,
comment.
thank you.
I couldn't follow it.
So let me call in the question. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Now it's 2 hours.
You did one of my 20 comments on the minutes. Okay. Okay.
Okay, Mrs. Capasso.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple of things. First of all, we received a new Iro report, just to remind everybody that the independent review organization, the Iro was appointed to monitor the compliance of Broward Health with the corporate integrity agreement entered into as a term of settlement with the U.S. government in 2015 related to Stark law violations. This report to the State Office of Inspector General provides detail on additional potential misconduct of the past, but also notes the progress being made in compliance by the current Board of Commissioners and our management team. So I'm bringing this because even though it's kind of the past, I wanted to give kudos to the Board of Commissioners, the management team, and our management team there, because this is a way to go. We're really doing what we're supposed to do, so good job for you all. Some community outreach programs. The Children's Diagnostic Treatment Center on Thanksgiving's the Sunday before, myself, Gino, Alan, and I actually brought my husband. It's the 25th annual Thanksgiving Basket Brigade. This is a very cool event if you've never done it, and I'm going to encourage you to do it next year. There's hundreds of volunteers. We all show up, I think around 8 o'clock in the morning. There's food, you get a bag, you actually go, and we have turkeys. We go and they kind of sound the alarm, they go in a line, we give them all the food, then these same people get in their cars and donate the baskets of food to our needy families. I'm telling you, it was an amazing event. To that note, the Community Health Services, they host their annual Homeless Thanksgiving Feast, and that was on November 20th. And if you know, feeding the homeless and working on a soup kitchen is a passion of mine. This was an unbelievable event. I think we fed about between 700 and 750, right, Jasmine? Again, it was a great event to see the smiles. Dr. Westfall also came, and I said that next year, Jasmine said, regardless of where I am, I will come down there again and serve the food. It was it was really great. Some time to brag about some of our facilities, our quality outcomes at Broward Health Pharmacy, our residency program. This is the first time that we were accredited for 6 years, so kudos to Broward Health Medical Center. Also their pulmonary rehab program, they got their certification for 3 years. At BHIP, they received an award for the Life Alliance Organ Recovery Agency, and that is something where it's very delicate when when a patient passes. It is by law that we have to call them, and they speak to the families about organ donation. So it's a tough job. We were awarded for 100% conversion rate, so kudos to the BHIP group. And Broward Health Coral Springs, they had a very successful, it's called a CAP certification, and that's the College of American Pathology, and they had a very successful, actually they were surveyed by University of Miami colleagues, which is difficult in itself, and they said they did a great job, so kudos to them. As far as the people segment, we already introduced Mr. Gezzi. I wanted to let you know that we'll be starting with a new Chief Nursing Officer, Carolyn Carter. She comes to us with over 20 years of experience. She worked at Jackson and at the Cleveland Clinic. I'm happy to announce Jennifer Cohen. She joined us as a Vice President of Benefits and Wellness. She's responsible for strategic planning and design and overall leadership. Her experience is with the Memorial Health System. And last but not least, we have Denise Moore. She recently joined us from Broward Health as Vice President of Corporate Communications and Marketing. She's going to provide strategic oversight of Broward Health's marketing and communications. She brings with us 25 years at Tenet Healthcare. Most recently, she was their Chief Marketing Executive for the Florida region, which is now part of the Coastal Division. She led the marketing communication for 17 hospitals and 3 markets. So as far as growth, I'm not going to burst Alan's bubble, but he'll talk to you about a bond update. But I wanted to thank him and his team because the bond sale marks a significant milestone in our healthcare systems for turnover and transformation. So kudos to him and those of you that worked with him. I'd like to bring back next with your recommendations to the board on posting our board agenda and also on the website, as well as other innovative ideas to continue to be transparent in all that we do. So I'll put together something and I'd like to bring it back if you're all right with that. And lastly, I'd like to thank the board for your support as we continue to improve our quality of care to our patients and certainly lessen the dependence on our taxpayer subsidy. And that's my report.
Any of these folks in here?
I'm sorry?
Any of these folks you mentioned, are they here?
Yes, Denise is here. I think she is. I saw Denise. Stand up. There's Denise. Carolyn Carter is not here. I don't know if Jennifer is here. Peter, is Jennifer here? Right, and so Carolyn Carter's the Coral Springs Chief Nursing Officer, but I know she's not here. I'll have her, when she's starting in a few weeks, if you'd like, I can have her come and introduce.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
way we run across on the hallway.
You'll know. You'll recognize her.
I kind of like to say, good morning, how are you?
You got it. I will.
Anyway, I'm sure the commission like that. Great, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
report.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Gino, you're next, are you? No, hold on. Sorry. I'm sorry, Alan. I cannot tell you, no, 1 second, it was gonna be easy. You're on. Acceptance of the financial statement.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good
I'm
afternoon.
going to kind of do my financials in two parts. I'm going to kind of go over, highlight October, and I'm going to kind of go over the bond with you as Bev has discussed in her report, if that's all right.
Yep. Fine.
Okay. So when you look at October, you look at our excess revenue over expenses, we had $10.2 million versus a budget of 1.1, or a $9.1 million over budget. Year to date, we have a positive $15.6 million versus a prior year of a negative 1.489, or 17 million more than prior year. Now, the excess revenue over expenses takes into investment and property tax, so I'm just giving you kind of the total picture, but when you look at what me and Gino and our executive team are looking at, we're looking at our gain or losses from operations. In the month of October, we have a loss of 11.2 million versus a budget of 11,014,000, or 253K unfavorable. Year to date, and the reason why when I look at year to date, I'm not going against the budget because we had a hurricane, so our budget is kind of, we're going to be under budget because of the hurricane. So I'm looking at prior year, which also had a hurricane, so it's a really good apples to apples comparison, so you kind of see how we're doing from a year to year. And you look at it, year to date we had a loss of 52,768,000 versus a prior year of a loss of 53.355, or favorable 680K, or 1% better than prior year. So we're starting to see a little bit of margin, I guess, increase or less of a loss than prior year. So that's sort of the month of October. The reason why we were we missed budget was more volume. It was really admissions, ER visits, and surgeries were all kind of at missed budget or just at budget. So we have our teams looking at what's going on in the facilities, and we hope to see back to budget plans and get them back on budget by the end of the year. As I had promised you guys that I was going to report to you our overtime and agency as a percent of our productive hours, and we had committed to reducing that to the budgeted amount. So I'm not going to look at September because obviously there was a hurricane in there, so I'm going to really look at August as kind of a comparison so you guys can see how we're doing. For the month of August, we were at around 7% overtime and agency as a percent of productive hours. And in October, we were 5.19, which is a 2% decrease in our overtime and agency. So the work that the teams are doing is starting to show. Also, is something that I wanted to point out. I was talking to HR, and they've done just a phenomenal job of hiring people since October. We've had 317 employees hired. 153 of those are RNs, and the rest of them are ancillary. And Peter has a job fair January. When is it, Peter? December 6th, where it's kind of going to be like one of those, come in, we'll hire you based off your own job performance. A pretty innovative way to try to hire people. So we're trying to gear up for for the busy season. So we fully expect to hit our overtime and agency budget for the year. So I just wanted to kind of keep you abreast of what's going on with that. And that kind of goes over the month of October. Does anyone have any questions or anything specific they want to ask me on that?
I'd like to ask Peter how he hired 150 RNs.
Peter's a hiring fanatic.
Is that true? It's 150?
153.
I want to send my kids.
And just to point out, not all of them are from Parkland either. There's a little bit.
I mean, that's amazing.
I really feel that when you create an excitement about an organization, people want to come to that organization. And I really believe our turnaround is getting people excited. And as a result, it's getting easier and easier to get people to want to say that they want to be at Broward Health.
That's
We need you to fill the other 2 positions on this board. You don't get anybody excited
They're
about
posted
that.
though. No, they are posted, and we do have applicants, so we're moving forward with that as well.
And not just the...
Oh, are you talking about the actual board?
Yeah.
That. Not my jurisdiction.
Not your job.
What you didn't tell the boys that you hire them all to your department.
No.
No, I mean, not to belittle the other members of the 317 total, but hiring that many nurses in this environment, in this location, from my experience, is absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely. And you know what, Commissioner Roberson, the HR team is just a phenomenal team, and this is not the work that I'm doing. It's really the team just really buying into what we're doing as an organization and the contribution that this wonderful institution really for this community. So we're bought in, and we're doing everything we can to let the community out there know that this is the place to be.
But that's got to come back to leadership, Peter, because those positions weren't filled last year or the year before. And not only that, having those RNs being our employees reduces all those outside sources and contractors that cost a fortune. And the more we can bring in-house, because they have our whole systems. You know, it's not like you have to educate the temporary, contract people. It saves an awful lot, and I honestly, that's one of there are a lot of bright spots today, but that's one of the really big bright spots, so thank you very much.
Good, thank you. And really, it really has been Alan's vision to reduce that, the cost of on the agency and the overtime and all of that. So I got to thank my team here, the leadership team. Fantastic.
Yeah.
You pay double?
Say that. You pay, absolutely. And then your quality goes down.
Exactly. You can't control the quality. You can't control who shows up on a given day. No, it's great. It's really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we get a motion to approve following? No, we didn't. So I need a motion to approve your report.
The financial statement.
Can I get a motion to, do you guys have to make the motion?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not, well, we were in questions, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's finished with the financial.
No, I just said, do you guys have any questions on the financials? And then
No, I
Commissioner
don't.
Robinson
And
had.
Mr. Willinstead.
Huh?
I thought you had a question.
No, I want to hear about
Okay.
the bond issue.
Okay, I do too.
Okay. So as Beth said, and you may have read in some local reputable publications in South Florida, on November 21st, we sold $317 million of bonds. The excellent pricing and sales result is a culmination of several months of careful planning and strategic decisions, making another step in our financial stability for Broward Health. I really want to thank all the board for their support and their leadership, and specifically Commissioner Uri for meeting with the agencies and really helping us through this process. It was a lot of work, and I think we've really done good things for the district in the future. Thank you very much.
I never signed a bill that big.
You haven't gotten it yet.
Never seen it.
Just to give you guys some updates on work, we have a call tomorrow to kind of give you guys a final timeline. There's going to be some, some stuff that we have to sign and to make it official, but I think December 13th, it'll be official. We'll be taking over the new refinancing bonds and taking on the two.
So that's the closing date.
That's just the closing, yeah, that's just the closing date. It's more of just signing all the paperwork and stuff.
So the bonds are all committed. Money's going to come in by before the end of the year?
December 13th.
Do you want to highlight a couple of the advantages of what this means in dollars and cents and the reduced debt service, the liquidity issues?
Yeah, so the reduced debt service is going to be about $800,000 less than what we're currently paying. And that's on top of taking an additional $90 million of additional capital to help pay for our signature projects that we had already committed to, as well as gets us out of the swaps that we were currently on. And we had $23 million of money sitting in collateral. That was our money. That's because we had gone below an A rating or trip one of our bond covenants, that we had to have money in collateral that we could not use to fund operations. So with all that and everything that we've done, we have going to be taking out $40 million, 23 of the money that was for sitting in collateral, and then $17 million of money that we had already spent on the signature projects that we're able to reimburse ourselves at signing. So we're going to infuse an additional $40 million of cash, which is about 15 or 16 days of cash on hand that we'll be able to bring onto our balance sheet. As well as that we had an outdated bond covenant because it's very old. So we had a lot of stuff that we had to require that we had to do on a quarterly and monthly basis. And our only thing that we have to do now, besides, like the basic stuff, is that we have to have a debt service covenant of 110%, which we are far above.
It's an annual covenant.
Yeah, an annual. So we won't have that stress now of me trying to not give capital to people because I'm trying to make a certain requirement. I'm able to let my operators operate and take care of the patients instead of worrying about a balance sheet, which is what we're here to do.
So if I go to page 6, your financial statements. So I look at liquidity. I'm looking at cash on hand for a not-for-profit, A-rated bond issue at 215 and a half days. We're currently sitting at 182 days. By taking this $40 million back, at least $23 million of it was collateral. $17 million is being reimbursed. So what is that? How is that going to make us look? I mean, how much is that going to improve us, and is it going to get us into a, what's that going to look like, and what's that mean? I mean, I think the importance of getting that $40 million back is huge. I mean, it's a lot of cash, particularly the $23 million that was sitting there we're earning nothing on.
That's a great question. So when me and my finance team were looking at distributing the rest of capital for the rest of the year, we really had to make a decision. So do we try to get to the 215 and get to the A-rated, or do we kind of do that incrementally? So what we decided to do, we wanted to go incrementally. So we're bringing our cash on hand in the way that we have released our capital and the way that we're kind of balancing out everything, is we're going to keep it at 197. And we're having, and we're releasing 75% of the capital that was already budgeted to the facilities to use to help. And then we're going to do quarterly forecasts, and that 25% that we're holding back is going to be used to keep our cash on hand at the 197, 198 mark. So in a year, when we go back to the rating agency, I can hopefully by the middle of next year get it up to 205, 206 as we continue to show great operation savings. And we can get back into that A rating where we really belong to be instead of what we sort of ended up with. So we're getting there.
Any other things you want to highlight about how you want to, the things you're doing, or is that in here, or is it?
So we have a lot of stuff that's in the pipeline that I don't feel comfortable at this point putting and announcing because it's not 100% sure. But as we start to pick off these low-hanging fruit, I like to call them, I'll be announcing them in the board meeting so we can all know what's going on from a transparency perspective in the numbers.
That's great, because looking at these financials and the information that we're getting, I think this is really, really good. I think we're getting to where we want to be, and I want to thank, I think your team, Bev, your whole team, Alan, Gino, you guys are doing a great job getting us information. So it's definitely helpful, and I think we're moving in a direction that's going to make us, really a premier organization from a perspective of, our competition. I think it's where we're headed, and I think we want to be a standard, and I think we're going to lead. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. So that, if anyone has any other questions,
Any other questions? Okay, so can I entertain a motion to accept the interim financial statement for the month of October 2017?
So moved.
Move.
Second.
One second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Gino, you have item 5, right?
Yes, I think we're on item 4 first.
Wait a minute. What happened?
It's Lynn.
Okay,
It's
all
Jerry
right.
Suarez.
I know there was a...
Yep.
Okay. It's item 4, ratification of district risk management. Hello.
Administration. My name is Jeff Soros. I'm the Director of Risk Management for Broward Health. We have some recent appointments which, pursuant to Florida law as well as ACA regulation, are not only the board supposed to be apprised of those changes, but also we're supposed to seek your motion for validation. So recently we have a vacancy in the risk manager position at Broward Health Medical Center. So what we're doing to support those responsibilities is we have essentially promoted the risk specialist who has been in the department for 6 years, and she is now acting as the risk manager there. We've also added as a risk designee, who is essentially her backup, is Kathy Manelli, who's been with Broward Health since 2011. And I'd like to just give you a slight background so you could, have some information about these people.
Here?
They are not here. Amy Hansen has been with Broward Health for 28 years, all of which has actually been with Broward Health Medical Center. She joined the risk department 6 years ago, and she's been functioning as a risk specialist ever since. She's a registered nurse, and she's also a licensed healthcare risk manager. Kathy Manelli has actually been a nurse for over 42 years. She also, Kathy Manelli is the designee, not acting as the risk manager. She has a master's in healthcare administration, over 12 years of clinical experience, and she was previously a director of risk and quality at a hospital in New York, Brunswick Hospital Center, before relocating to Florida and joining Broward Health North as a case manager, and then going to Broward Health Medical Center as a quality specialist. I was able to hire Kathy in 2016. So those are the appointments that we'd like to make, and I'm seeking your motion for validation.
So, do I have a motion to...
I move that we ratify the appointment of Ms. Henson and Ms. Manelli.
Correct.
As risk managers in accordance with the request.
So, moved by Commissioner Robertson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Yuri, all in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Next time, bring them over.
I will do.
No, it's good
We
to see a
can sit
face.
here all day.
So we can, put a face to the name.
Absolutely. Will do. Thank you.
Okay, item 5.
Now it's my turn.
Can you take it now?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Take a half a meeting back so we can...
Thank you, Commissioner. Discussion agenda item number 5 is seeking the approval by the Board of Commissioners to pay the remaining amount due to Intercom Media LLC of $501,199. Intercom Media LLC had an original contract that did not include any dollar amounts tied to it. So there was an amendment to the contract, and it allowed for a certain dollar amount and a time frame. However, the way it was written, it does not supersede the original agreement, and as such, it was really just merely an ancillary component of the agreement. So we took those services. The other item is we had them budgeted. So the way that we do our budgets, we have them budgeted by services and by vendors. So some of our line item budgets are particularly tied to vendors. This one was not. This was tied to a service. So for example, where the money was budgeted was under digital media advertising, radio advertising, but it wasn't tied to a specific vendor, which is why we wanted to, in the spirit of transparency, bring it to the board. The audit department reviewed all of the invoices and have concluded that services as described were rendered, thus payment is due. So management is requesting that the Board of Commissioners of the North Broward Hospital District approve to proceed with payment to Intercom Media LLC for the remaining amount due of $501,199. Just so you know, over the term of the contract, $537,879.50 was paid out. The amendment was for $651,250, which leaves the total amount outstanding at $531,900, but there is a credit due of $30,701. Therefore, it is requested that the Board of Commissioners of the North Broward Hospital District approve to pay the remaining amount due to Intercom Media LLC in the amount of $501,199.
That's the one that you and I spoke about, that you checked and they had performed?
Yes.
All the contract for the fullness?
Yes, sir.
Are they doing anything for us now?
They're currently not, so their contract expired. I've been in touch with them. We've used them a lot in the past, but what I told them is we're not interested in entering into a new agreement until we can settle and close this out, and then we can entertain the idea of, is it in their best interest, and if it is, then to enter into a more favorable contract from a transparency and control perspective.
One that has a dollar amount in it?
Preferably would be nice, yes.
Yeah.
When were these services provided? How long ago did they complete them? Or?
Yes, so the last service that was provided, I believe, was in the month of July. That was the last time that services were provided.
And do we have any statistical data on the worthiness of it? I mean, is it something we want to pursue, or you're still evaluating that?
So under Denise Moore in the new marketing department, that's one of the things that we think she'll bring to us, is really sort of a scorecard, sort of an ROI in terms of what the value is from a spend standpoint. Are we spending in the right area? Are we getting the messages out to the community for a quality perspective? And what's the best resources that the hospital wants to offer the community? Okay.
When was this contract entered into?
I can get back to you on that. I'm not 100% sure.
But presumably any contract we go forward is going to go through a new contracting procedures and...
Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned, this contract had expired already. So any contract going forward, whether it's a marketing agreement, focused arrangements or not, goes through our centralized database of Compliance 360, which utilizes legal review, compliance review, business operations review, standardized templates. It goes through the whole gamut.
Yeah. Apparently we owe the money when they provide the service, so I'll make a motion that we provide the authority to make the payment and complete our requirements under the invoices.
Second.
Move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Gina?
Thank you for that.
Number 6.
So number 6, Bev had spoke before about having the agenda and board information sent out with more advance notice. That's something that we universally agree on, and in the spirit of that, there's a couple of items on here, Commissioner, that I would ask if it could be tabled so that we can do a deeper dive into it and provide better information and a more comprehensive review. That would be item number 6, number 9, and number 10, if I have your approval to table those.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll move on to discussion agenda item number...
Well, I got you there. It is very important.
Yes.
And I talked to you about this, that you're going to have a cutoff date.
Oh, yeah.
Largely, part of the agenda is Broward Health business, but it's all on the North Broward Hospital District. And we have very little of it, but the reality is we need to get these agendas and everything on time. And you and I talked about it yesterday. I think that is a wonderful idea to put a cutoff date. If you want something on it, have it ready by, say, hypothetically 10 days before, or you're out to lunch the next time around.
Yeah, we've worked in environments before that have the cutoff date, and I think it's an important component to set the precedent and make sure we have an appropriate time to do a thorough review. I want to thank Lynn Barrett, General Counsel, for, with less than 24 hours, finding some items that needed further review, but having the advance notice to do a deeper dive, I think will benefit everyone.
And the other thing is, we need to get, when we get these books, that agenda should be right on the website. So, but what you talked to me about
we talked about
yesterday,
that. Yep.
It was music to my ear, because now we know that no tiki, no laundry. You don't provide the information, you're not going to get on my agenda.
Yes.
because, you know, it's crazy, okay? But I know that we're dealing with a lot of fires. We're putting out a lot of fires out there. All right, thank you, Gina. So we table 6.
So we're going to table numbers 6, number 9, and number 10.
Okay, your table.
And then I'll move on to discussion agenda item number 7.
Okay.
This is to a request that the Board of Commissioners of North Broward Hospital District waive the bidding process due to sole source and authorize the interim president and CEO to acquire the St. Jude's Medical Insight Precision System for the Cardiovascular Services Department at Broward Health Medical Center. It's at a cost of $127,900. Just as a note, that software upgrade will be funded by fiscal year 18 donated funds. And what that is advanced ablations or critical treatments required for arrhythmias. Our existing software right now is at end of life and can no longer be supported. And the existing electrophysiology lab can only be updated with the vendor's software. Otherwise, we'd have to purchase an entirely new system, which would be incredibly expensive and not ideal. So with that said, it is requested that the Board of Commissioners of the North Broward Hospital District, in accordance with section, and we would like to, this is one of the items that Lynn pointed out, we need to change this. Instead of section 24(1)D, that should read section 24(4) of the charter, waive the bidding process due to sole source, and authorize the interim president CEO to acquire the St. Jude Medical's Insight Precision System for the Cardiovascular Services Department at Broward Health Medical Center at a cost of $127,900 with Insight Precision in accordance with resolution number 1711-2901. And we'd like to point out that that resolution should be amended for the appropriate section number as well. And again, that change would be for section 24(1)D to section 4 of the charter.
For 24-4.
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
No dash.
No dash, actually, it's just a 4 in parentheses.
24-4. All right, so do I hear a motion?
It's on page 18 of the charter.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Just have one follow-up question on that. Do our other facilities have this same type of product, or is it only at the medical center?
So not all of them offer the level of complexity for EP services, so I don't believe they all have it. Broward Health North may, but I would need to follow up to find out. They do not. I'm getting a no, so no.
Okay.
All right, you have another one here?
Yes, so discussion agenda item number 8 is requesting the Board of Commissioners.
We did vote on that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
To waive the bidding process due to sole source and authorize the interim president and CEO to acquire the Intuitive Surgical Da Vinci SI robotic system for surgical services at Broward Health Medical Center at a cost of $300,000 in accordance with resolution number 1711-2902. Just as a point of amendment to this, it is the same exact change. The section number 24(1)D as reflected here will also, both on the resolution and on the discussion request, be amended to section 24 and then in parentheses the number 4. To give you some background on this, due to the growing minimally invasive surgical program we have at Broward Health Medical Center, we were really required 2 robotic systems to maintain operational efficiency. Performa was completed with the request to obtain the updated version of the robot, which is their XI model, through a capital lease in fiscal year 2017. With the 2 robots operational, Intuitive loaned us back for free the SI that we were trading in until we could build the volume. And within that year, we had an incremental growth of 90 cases during the first 12 months. We're continuing to grow now. So with the need, there is an operational requirement to have 2 robots. Therefore, it's requested that the Board of Commissioners of the North Broward Hospital District, in accordance with section 24(4) of the charter, waive the bidding process due to sole source and authorize the interim president and CEO to acquire the Intuitive Surgical Da Vinci robotic system, SI, for surgical services at Broward Health Medical Center at a cost of $300,000 in accordance with resolution 1711-2902.
I have one question. I recall about 4 years ago, we bought a Da Vinci, it was for Imperial Point, and then after we bought it, then there was some software or something to clean it. I mean, you gotta bathe these things or whatever you do. And then there was another $80,000, and at the time, Alice, you remember this if you're hanging around it, at the time, somehow the cleaning was not included, and then they had to come back. So you make sure that these guys got soap and water?
There is, I did verify with Sandra and Alex Fernandez that the service agreement is budgeted already. And I had actually spoken with the rep as late as about an hour ago, just to confirm that again. So we should be good to go.
All right.
It's a pretty cool machine. I actually saw it in operation a couple weeks ago, and they wouldn't let me mess with it, but I wanted to use it, but they wouldn't let me. But it's a pretty cool machine. So, and it seems to speed up the process, as well as seems to pay for itself. So
yeah, and it's done great things for our length of stay and quality, and we have a very strong robotic program here.
All right, so do I have a motion to approve the R2D2 Da Vinci?
So moved.
Oh,
Second?
move on second, all in favor?
Aye.
Just to be clear though, the item will pay for itself. I mean, it appears based on the numbers here that the investment will get a positive return for the...
Yeah, the performance was very favorable on this.
Okay.
It was, to be specific, it was less than a half a year payback.
Excellent.
So we're on 11 now, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for helping me. Is that yours, Judy? Oh, Dr. Westphal. Welcome back.
I think I'm wearing a hole in the carpet from the number of trips I've made up here today. So this request is to have an approval, or the request is to approve the agreement with current compensation for Dr. Kenneth Hershkowitz for a 2-year term. Dr. Hershkowitz is in the audience in the back. He's got his hand held up, so in case you don't know Dr. Hershkowitz. This is to provide cardiovascular and cardiothoracic surgical services at Broward Health Medical Center. The strategic initiative supports Broward Health initiatives to provide world-class quality care to all patients served. Dr. Hershkowitz is the only active employed physician providing these services at Broward Health Medical Center. No capital is required. The physical impact, the annual cost is within the FMV as documented by FTI Consulting at the 82nd percentile. That's inclusive of the medical directorship at $122,400. Budget status, it is budgeted. Legal review has been completed. Completion date is for December 4th, 2017. Just request an approval.
So do I hear?
I will move. I think that was actually one of the very first orders of business I was happy to be involved in. Dr. Hershkowitz. I don't know if everybody knows him, but why don't you stand up, Dr. Hershkowitz, if you don't mind. So I'll have the pleasure of moving that this board approve again, which was 2 years ago we did that. So thank you for your service and dedication to the community and the system. Appreciate it.
It's good seeing you again. Don't stay away so long.
It's always good to see Dr. Hershkowitz's quality scores and his coding, because they're all, his quality is 100%, his coding scores are 0. You can't get much better than that.
I second the
So,
resolution.
moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Westphal. Corporate integrity agreement?
Yeah.
Who has that?
Our compliance officer.
Oh. Oh, there he is. Hello, Nick.
Well, good to see everyone again.
Good to see you too.
Approval of board resolution number 1711-2903.
Yes, I'm here to request the board's approval of that. This is required under our corporate integrity agreement in each reporting year. We recently concluded the second reporting period, and it's required to be put in our annual report to the OIG, which is due on December 4th.
Do you all have a copy?
Yeah, I had read the one emailed last night. What was the change in, if you don't mind?
There was no change to it. The only thing that I included was the backup documentation that we included last year. So there was no change to the document that you received yesterday.
Okay.
But the addition, the last 2 pages, is just the board oversight, the steps that the board took to demonstrate oversight of the compliance program here at North Broward. So it goes through the different meetings that were held discussing compliance issues, the anti-kickback statute training that the board members took in January, the additional training that was taken by Commissioners Wellens and Commissioners Klein when they came on board, the documentation that they received. Also talks about the steps you took.
This thing that you handed out is the same that was emailed last night? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
So
I will.
when this has to be in Washington?
December 4th.
Oh yeah, we better have you.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get penalized, right?
The system will, yes.
It's not even complicated.
Yeah.
If we adopt this, how are we going to get, we need to get this all signed. So how,
Yep. I will hang out.
do you have the document?
I do. I have a clean copy.
He's got 5
I have
pens.
it.
Yep.
Because I'd like to get it,
Yeah, but I've
I'd
got
like to get it in their hands quicker than the deadline date if possible.
So would I.
Yeah.
I'm shooting for Friday.
Yeah, okay.
Is to get it to them.
Don't we sign it today?
Yes.
We're all
Only
in?
if we
Yep.
approve it.
Which is the same way we did it last year, to
Okay.
where the board signed it and then we submitted the report, I think the following day or a few days
I have a
after.
question. Do we need
Yes.
an update to reflect your position as of today? Is that today, Peter? Yes. So I think one of the things that needs to be added to this is our permanent
Yes,
compliance.
and I will. I'll add it to the annual report.
Okay, and it can say effective as of.
Yep, yep, and I'll put the effective date as of
Okay,
today.
you can even, if you want to just put it up front in there,
Okay.
in that list that's already there, it's fine.
Correct, yeah, and that's what I'll do. I'll make the changes there.
Okay.
Right.
So is there a motion to accept?
I move to approve the resolution.
His position.
Oh.
Before, should we,
Yeah, why don't you do that?
should we announce his position, and then it can be part of the approval with the amendment?
Well, we've already, we
Well, I
had a
won't-
board meeting, we already approved it.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in the
Yeah, but
resolution.
Special board
No,
meeting.
but that was a special board meeting.
Fine,
Yeah.
as long as it's not an emergency board meeting, that doesn't have to be
We don't have
ratified
to
at a
do-
board
okay,
meeting.
fine.
No, he's just going to add it to the actual report.
Correct.
I don't think it needs to go.
No, to the.
No, yeah, it won't go in it will go in the annual report, it won't go in the resolution. but
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I got a motion from Commissioner Ure to support the resolution. And I need a second,
Oh, well, second. I thought I did.
okay? All in favor?
Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, before we vote, I'm obviously new to the board. I was appointed a couple days before the end of the second reporting year, sworn in after the end of the second reporting year. All the information in here seems to be accurate to me, particularly as to the training I received after the end of the second reporting year. So I'll support the motion. I just want to note that for the record that I don't have a personal basis for much of the information contained in the reports as to what transpired during the second reporting year, which ended at the end of August 2017.
Okay.
That's noted in the report, maybe.
Well, his dates of appointment are noted in the report, and also with this resolution, what the board is certifying too is that we have compliance program oversight, right? That we have an effective compliance program, we're meeting the obligations of the CIA, that's what you're really certifying to in this resolution, is that you believe you're getting all the information, accurate information, and that you're certifying that North Broward has an effective compliance program.
Yes, and I'm in agreement with that, in terms of the implementation of the compliance program and the fact that we have an effective program at this point. Thank you.
All right, so,
Need to vote.
can I let me call the roll?
Do the roll call.
Do roll call.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Uri?
Yes.
Commissioner Robison?
Yes.
Commissioner Wellens?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
I just say that
You got it?
personally, I would just want to say I'm really proud of where we've come.
Thank you, that
Thank
means a
you
lot.
for your
I appreciate it.
Leadership, everybody, it's certainly not a one-man
Yeah,
show. so
it definitely is not.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm the next item, so that's why I'm still hanging out up here.
You got another item? No,
Yeah.
go ahead.
It's the call
Suit
coverage.
yourself.
No.
All right, so what's the other one?
No, the next item on the
Right,
agenda.
it's the arrangement that we referred from the compliance committee to the full board to recommend the adoption of the on-call coverage arrangements
Okay,
policy.
right, correct.
And Nick, it's a long policy, but Nick's going to explain how it came to be, and hopefully everyone will understand it a little bit better.
Okay.
So this policy came to be, as we discovered in earlier this year, that the North Broward Hospital District did not have a consistent call policy amongst all the hospitals. So in order to get a consistent policy, and so that way the process would be consistent across each hospital at North Broward, we started to draft a policy that would be effective across the whole system. And also, as we began drafting, one of the purposes of the policy was to spread the responsibilities for creating call amongst many people instead of it being localized into one person's hands. So with that, we created what we call in the policy the call coverage management team, which is consistent of the regional CEO, the chief medical officer of North Broward, and then also the regional medical officers of each facility. They're in charge of this process. And with this policy, we also have the opportunity for some exceptions to be made to this policy because we know that this is a large system and there are uniquenesses within the system. As I discussed Monday at the compliance committee, the Broward Health Medical Center is a teaching facility, so a lot of things are a little different when you have faculty and the requirements, and so we built that in with the policy. And so really the point of this policy is to ensure that we have a consistent process for being on call across the system. And then also all of our community physicians are aware of opportunities to take call. It goes into where how things are going to be posted in common areas of the physicians. We're going to post it on the internet. So that way it's just everyone in the community is aware of it, and then if they wish to join it, they can join it, and if they meet the criteria, they'll be put on call. So it really was in an effort to ensure that we have consistency across the system and make sure that it's an open opportunity to any physician that wishes to be on it.
You had sought, and if I missed this, I don't think I did, but you had sought input from a variety of stakeholders.
We did, yep. So we met multiple times with obviously the senior leadership here at the hospital, here at corporate, the regional CEOs at each hospital reviewed the policies, the regional medical officers, the managers in the medical staff office, the chief medical officer. We included as many people as we could in the process to get their input, and we went through multiple drafts in regards to taking into account issues that were raised by the regional CEOs, the regional RMOs, Dr. Westfall is the chief medical officer, all had input into the policy.
It's probably a question I should have asked you in our compliance meeting, but
sure.
Well, once we have this wonderful policy in place and everyone's bought into it, how will we be able to ensure that it's being followed?
Well, we have built in regards to the interpretation and administration of this policy, so it'll be up to the chief, it'll be up to the compliance department. We'll do a review. I've already discussed with internal audit.
That's what I was getting at. Is audit going to do their review of it?
Of working together. So once we get this in place to ensure that that this policy is being applied consistently across the system.
Do you mind if I just make a comment on this?
Yeah.
So I think it is a very strong policy, but as you know, policies are only as strong as how they're implemented and how the practice is. And I just want to say it's been very early, but even in the draft form, even though it hasn't been officially blessed off on, I was extremely pleased to see the involvement between administration and the medical staff. Even as recent as yesterday, Medical Center. Dr. Yogel has been very helpful with it. Trauma at Broward Health North has worked well inter-facility wise. So I think there's definitely really good line of communication, and I think that's what's going to make this successful. So I just wanted to point that out and thank everyone for that, the CEOs and medical staff.
Well, it does seem to be a very comprehensive policy. It looks like it had some legal involvement since it's an 8-page policy.
Guilty,
Very
guilty.
You still getting paid by the word?
I am, I'm like Mark Twain.
They get paid by the word.
I make a motion that we accept the on-call coverage arrangement policy GA004-500 and as written, and with the understanding that it may have to be amended from time to time as the policies and procedures change.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And Nick, in keeping with your communication with Ms. Ellis, she'll know about this policy adoption today.
She will. It'll be in the annual report as well, and I'll let her know.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we got board resolution and policy. Okay, comments by commissioner. Who wants to start? You.
Me? Well, I'll be happy to start. I'll start. I just want to say that the tone of this meeting, even though it's been long, we've been here all day, it really encouraged me, not just the bond sale, which was very exciting, but what we've done in compliance, what all the physicians have done to buy in with this call coverage, with getting the organization so that it can be profitable and beneficial to the whole community. And I'm delighted with the staff. And Bev, you've brought some great folks on.
Commissioner Wells.
I just want to say, I've said it before, we have an amazing group of people. There's 10,000 employees that are behind the scenes, and we have a management team in place that I think is doing a super job. But I think the most important thing that Bev and your team that you've built here is doing is showing, letting the individuals that work for us shine. And I think for a long time they've been left out of getting the recognition that they deserve, and I think we're starting to see it. So you guys are doing a great job, but really it's about the people that work for you and all of this system, and I think they're starting to see better days. So keep up the great work, and everybody's working hard, but we thank you for sure. And I want to thank Nick for doing an amazing job getting that annual report done and getting everything done and getting the reports ready to go, and keep working at it.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein.
Yeah, I think that we're certainly feeling the positive momentum in so many different areas in terms of the personnel and the recruitment that we've spoken about today, in terms of the management and the experience and the quality of people that we're bringing in, and the quality of care that's increasing within the institution, the financial improvement, and of course the compliance. So in all of these areas, I think we're seeing very positive momentum, and obviously we want to keep that moving forward. And we hope to do that in the coming years. Thank you.
Commissioner Uri.
I think I said enough.
You have it? Okay, I just got to tell you that I am very proud of the work that staff has done and continue to do. And I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners to think about this month between now and the next meeting. It is very difficult for us to try and patch up the meeting. You know what we go through. Sometimes if I don't hear from somebody, I got my whole week stops. So we need to get back to basics. We're going to need the board meeting and then one day a month just to do whatever committees we have to do. And it's going to be a lot easier if we think of 2 days that we're going to be here. I know, rather than every one of us is trying to follow everybody else's schedule. So keep that in mind, and maybe we can come up to 2 days, there's just no way that we can function unless we have 2 days. One for board meetings and one to do whatever committee we need to do. Whether it's a half a day or 2 half days, you know, but if we try to come up with a meeting, you know, what we go through, by the time I hear from you, and then he's already going someplace else, or by the time you hear from me, it's a real nightmare. So it's best if we find, okay, every Wednesday, the first Wednesday or the second Wednesday, whatever, we're going to be here for half a day, one to do committee work and one to get board meeting, and then we put that on the schedule, and it's going to be a lot easier. But I don't want any answers now. Just going to think about it, because I've had this has been the day. It's been like a little roller coaster today. So, but a good meeting. So.
I just want to point out, though, that you don't ever hear from me, and I don't ever hear from you.
No, you're right.
I saw David's ears perk up over there, and he got all excited to have a story.
You know what I meant. And you're a witness that we talked every morning. Okay, I got to wait for somebody to call me back. To Pam, okay. And I got to wait for somebody to call me back, and in the meantime, you know, well, anyway, I was able to get a haircut yesterday, okay, and I'm happy about that. But it's something that it would be easier if we have to.
To the public. It was a special meeting.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh,
Yeah, that's his.
oh yeah, Nick, where's Hartfield?
In the back.
Congratulations for ladies and gentlemen. He's now our new compliance
Permanent chief.
permanent. Give me the title.
Vice President and Chief Compliance.
Vice President, Chief Compliance Officer. Congratulations to you. Good job.
Thank you.
And I know I'm glad that it's you, the one that's talking to the feds every day, and not me.
Drinks are on Nick.
Congratulations, Nick. You earned it. You're going to do a great job. We're proud of you.
So,
Do you want to take a recess before the shade?
yeah, please.
Brief, though.
A brief reset, but we don't adjourn.
Oh, you didn't have an item here?
No?
Okay,
We have a
We have a
shade
shade
session.
meeting now, so you can
okay,
take a
all right,
brief
okay.
recess, but keep the public meeting open.
All right, so I hear a motion to adjourn?
No motion to adjourn, we're taking a brief recess.
You're right, a recess.
Recess, quick
Yeah, okay,
recess.
all right.
Correct.
Fast.
No. Okay.